Let's talk about the numbers. First of all, we always start with kicking the board first.
Dropping a couple markers.
Because it displays our professionalism. All right, now we always start with the ARV, the after repair value, which let's be conservative and say it's going to be $266,000, but because this has never been a completed house, it could range up to potentially $300,000. But we're gonna focus conservatively on our numbers here, okay? But of course, if we can get more, then we'll get more. Let's talk about the purchase price, right? The purchase price. Purchase price for this property was $100,000. $100,000. But you want to know something? $100,000. Will somebody be, well, how did you find the property? And how did, it's always a great question. Maybe even might be a whole video in and of itself. But we have an extensive network of investors that we work with. And actually, our partner in this company, who's not here, he happened to just see this property and that it'd been sitting here for a long time and always wondered the story on it. And so he just did some research to find out who the owner was. And so tracked down the owner and then said, hey, here you go. I found this property and here's a name. So we called and we got the opportunity to come down and take a look at this property and then the negotiation process started. And so we negotiated. They wanted $100,000 and we gave them $100,000. But we gave it to them with what's called a seller financed note, meaning we didn't give them all $100,000 up front. We've given ourselves a year to get this project done because it's going to take a year.
You bring up a good point that they wanted $100,000.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll talk a lot of times, and we'll do another training on that we can either give them the price that they want or the terms. If they want cash right now, I can give you cash right now, but you're going to have to come down on your price. Or if you want the price that you are looking for, you're going to have to give us some terms.
Yeah.
So what were the terms that we worked out?
Well, this was really great. Everybody wins. They get the price they wanted. We got 0% interest for 12 months. So we put half down, and then we're paying the other half at the end of the year. So that works really great for us. That gives us more liquidity, cash on hand, to take care of what needs to be done here. So estimated, what is the estimated repair cost?
$12,000.
Well, okay. There's a lot that needs to be done here. As you see, the whole place has been gutted. It's going to need some work here in the rafters. There's going to need because there's several different concrete slabs here, they're going to have to be grinded down. A lot of things aren't up to code. Electrical's not up to code. These stairs obviously aren't up to code. What are we going to do with that back room right there that doesn't have any foundation underneath it? Right, that's not up to code. So there's some demolition that needs to happen here. There's some professional skilled labor that still needs to be done. The HVAC has been done and is set and is great. So the HVAC, that's one thing we don't have to worry about. HVAC's good. So we did find one good thing. Another thing to mention is there's no garage over here. No garage. So in every house on the street has a garage. So we're going to have to address that. But also, do we do the work ourselves? Do we hire a handyman? Do we go all the way up and hire a general contractor? So you do it yourself. You might save some money. You hire a handyman, costs you a little bit more, but it's not as expensive as a contractor. And then you hire a licensed general contractor that's very expensive, but they're licensed, bonded, insured. Everything is up to code, and you pass all your inspections. So And if you don't pass an inspection, they fix it at their expense, right? So what's your thoughts on, do you go with fixing it yourself, hire a handyman, or use a general contractor?
Well, we've been through all different phases. I've been the live-in guy where I fix it up myself. I've done it, the move, buy it and then fix it up. You know, it takes a very long time to do that.
How much is your time worth?
It's very time is valuable. That's the most valuable thing. So the way that we spend our time, I still have people to ask, well, I got this situation. Do you want to help me do that? And I said, I can't at this point be working on bathroom remodels. I can't spend my time doing that anymore like I used to. And it's just the progression. Maybe, when you're first starting out, you're going to have to do the remodel yourself. Just depends on the situation. But if you have the ability to be more of a project manager or even build a team where you have a contractor do it. Now, a project of this scope, you're going to want somebody who is, able to at least work underneath the contractor, and have some type of skill sets of being able to be aware of the permits that could be required, the inspections that are going to be required. Because the worst thing that could happen is, we start going through this and then the county says, oh, you didn't have this or this inspected or you didn't get a permit. Then we have to start. Most likely we wouldn't have to tear it apart, but there's a good chance that you could get somebody on a bad day and then they want you to tear something apart.
Right.
So on a thing of this scope, you're going to want to use definitely a licensed contractor is going to have to be in the mix somewhere.
I want to bring up our conversation that we just had before we started filming, because we were talking about, well, what's it going to cost to put a garage over there, right?
All right.
And so if you get a general licensed contractor, easily with the drafting and the permits and the materials and the labor and everything, you're going to spend $40,000 to put a two-car garage over there. And Ray's like, I could get that done for 15 or 20. Yeah, so it sounds like we could save money if Ray did it, except for it would take Ray 10 times longer.
Yeah, no, Ray's not doing that.
But I mean, the thing is you think when you do it yourself, you're saving money, but you're losing so much valuable time. And if you get into a deal like this and you've borrowed money, time is money. So I mean, you've got to weigh the expenses, the pros and the cons. But I've just come to learn through education, some through experience, that hiring the professionals is actually the cheapest way to go.
It really is. Cheapest and quickest.
Yes. So when you look at this whole place, I could easily see you could put $200,000 into this if you wanted to.
I actually did. We got one bid from one contractor. What did they even say? I think he told me it was one of those bids where you get it, and the second you see it, it's that they don't want to do the project. I think they said $260,000. $250. Yeah. That was just kind of one of those. Could
we not just build a new place for that?
That's an entirely new house at $250,000.
So again, what standards are we going to fix it up to? Are we going to put in tile flooring? Well, with the unevenness of the floor, I don't know that we're going to go tile here. That would actually look pretty terrible. We'll figure out, maybe we'll have to build up or do something, but there's a lot of considerations in the materials. You look at the standards around us, the houses that are selling for $300,000, I mean, they look amazing. Wood flooring, or they have tile flooring. And so we're going to have to fix this property up to the standards of this neighborhood. We don't want to overdo it, but we also have to keep in mind that we're trying to make a profit here. We don't plan on living here. So do we have to do everything? Like, this is 4 acres and it's all wild and overgrowth. Do we want to landscape it all? That could be very expensive. I mean, a lot of people, you could put in, if you want to make this horse property and put in the iron bars and gates, or do we want to landscape this out with a whole bunch and put a nice little driveway with a rock finish?
I mean, you could just never stop.
Right, exactly.
Keep going and going and going.
So the primary thing is we want this house to be safe, affordable, clean, and livable. Obviously safe. That's what I mean, livable. And then we have to decide whether or not we want to do a garage. So just to do the house, just the house, probably $100,000.
Yep, it's going to be right around there.
But do we do the garage? Well, there's a lot of things that come into play because the moment we start construction on this, which is going to be in a month, the moment we start construction on this is the day that the for sale sign goes out on the street. It not only goes out on the street right there, but it goes out to the main street so that it drives traffic. And because here, if you're wanting to buy a property like this, you get to come in at the ground level while it's being built. And then we'll negotiate the price for your purchase right here and now. And if you want a garage, you want a carport, you don't care about any of that, we'll work that into the price. But in terms of what we might do, I'm undecided on the carport. I'm undecided on the garage or carport right now.
Yeah.
We're going to focus on the house, and then we're going to look at where we're at. But we might not do a garage. We'll definitely get a contractor. We'll get some blueprints. We might even pull some permits so that it's ready to go if somebody wants to purchase this.
Yep.
But that's just something that we're going to have to see when we get there. Because if it's not selling because it doesn't have a garage, then we'll put a garage on there. But we'll do it in such a way that that it makes sense. We want to make sure that if we are going to use a general contractor and put $40,000 more into this, that we get $40,000 more out of it at least. But so I'm going to say our estimated repair cost at this time $110,000, and I put $10,000 extra dollars in there for oops factors because they happen. And on a project this big, if you try to run tight on everything, then you can easily go over budget. So we're going to say $110,000 just for the house, not doing any landscaping, and we're currently not doing anything for the garage at this point. But we've left the option open to do that. We have the money to do that, don't get me wrong, but I just don't know if we want to put it in there because if we're going to deal with a conservative ARV here, then I don't want to overfix this place up and not make any money off of it.
And that's the beautiful thing is that can always be built into the listing. That's a negotiating tool. We could use that to, if the buyer wants to get that, let's build it into the loan, and we'll move forward with getting that construction done.
Absolutely. Now, out here where we're at, we don't have, and because there's just not a lot going on out here. Our holding costs are going to be pretty minimal. Now, a lot of times you'll see holding costs, money costs. We're just doing holding costs because there is no money costs. The way we run our companies is we raised all of our capitals through self-directed IRAs. So the benefit there is we didn't get this property, now we borrowed money, and now we got to hurry and get it done before we got to make these payments and this interest on that. So,
and plus, coming into this deal, by creating that seller finance note, you just raised $100,000 right there. And the fact that we only had to put half of that down to start, that means we got $50,000 at 0% interest.
That we don't pay till the project's over. Okay, so no money cost, holding cost. We're talking about the fact that, there's no gas here, but there is some electrical, water. All this stuff is very minimal because the water is on a well, and so when we're looking at the electrical and everything, for just the holding costs here, very minimal, just the electrical that's going to be out here for the year at minimal power usage, $4,297. I actually have put in an extra. I bumped that up an extra $1,000 in case we all of a sudden, for construction purposes, need to throw in a whole bunch. We go into the summer and the electric's more expensive and there's a lot of working going on out here. Maybe we're going to have a few extra bills that are a little more expensive. So again, the real bill came out to about $3,000. I threw in an extra $1,000 because, again, oops factors. You always want to have that in there. But then we have our selling costs. When we go to sell, this is another thing. So what I want to call our closing costs. And I throw a lot of things into closing costs, right? Title, escrow, if you're going to use a realtor, buying and selling. So when we go into this total cost is going to be 2,300, or excuse me, 23,620, right? Wow, that is a lot of money for closing costs. Is that going to be our final closing cost? I don't think so, to tell you the truth. I mean, it could be, so I'm going to conservatively plan for that. But do I want to use realtors if I don't have to? If I can sell direct, for sale by owner, then I'm going to be saving myself probably 20,000 right there off the bat. But let's say I do need to put it on there. Do I want a realtor representing me? No, I can represent myself for this property. So I might just need a listing agent, and then instead of paying 6%, maybe I'll only pay 3 or 4%, right? So probably around 4%. So this final number on the closing cost is very much inflated. But again, I run my numbers inflated, and you should too, because too many people run their numbers. Well, I could save money here, and you try to play around with it. Look, if either the numbers are going to work or they're not, but I'm going to run the numbers with the most conservative ARV, and I'm going to try to look at, well, what if, because look, maybe to get the $300,000 price, I need to put a garage in there, right? I might need to do that. But maybe just to get the 266, we just have the house completed, and that might be good enough. So we'll have to decide. I mean, if it's dollar for dollar, whether if we put a $40,000 garage in there and we get $40,000 more, then why do it, right?
You bring up a good point, though. A lot of things in closing can add to hit National Bank. For example, if you have a relationship with a title company and they've given you an investor rate, that's sometimes 50% off of the normal price. If they're doing 2%, that could be $2,000 right there that you're saving. For example, when we purchase this property, we do what's called a hold open policy, where they haven't actually fully completed it, and it saves money when we go to sell. As long as we can, so we're going to want to use our title company, of course, when we go to sell it, because we're going to have that big discount. Brought up another thing too, shaving off 2% from the closing from a realtor, that's a lot. For getting an agent to just list it and have somebody come and check it out. They're willing to do that for 1%, say, on the selling side. That's over $5,000 in commissions that you'd save right there. So $2,000 from title, $5,000 from, where does all that go? That goes to that bottom line. That's $7,000 of profit instantly.
So looking at this property, minimally, we're looking at a $28,000 profit. And if we if we find the buyer before we finished, that's even better, right? Because then we know exactly where we need to be, and we'll adjust all our numbers accordingly. But we can significantly reduce our closing costs off of a number of different ways. But let's say we don't have to or don't want to. $28,000 on a project like this for a 12-month project. I don't know. That might be a little bit too low. You might say to yourself, I don't want to do it. For a lot of investors who borrow money, this is not even possible.
Not possible. Yeah.
But because we don't have to borrow the money, and in this area we have family, both of us have family that live down here, this is a great opportunity for us to have business write-offs and come down and work on this property, spend time with our families.
So, I don't want to work on the property.
Well, our work on the property is to inspect the work that's being done, right?
See, because that's the big thing is, we try to shoot for, we don't want to make really less than 10% of what we're actually putting in there. So we'll be in it, say $210,000 by the end of the whole thing, and walking away with, about a 12% return on investment.
It is a 12% return.
Not too shabby. And that's the great thing is, what are we actually doing? Showing up every couple of weeks, making sure things are on track, having to call the contractors, make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to do, have the alarm app on your phone in case anything gets broken into.
Our investors, we're returning a 12% return on investment. So,
and plus we get to come in and show you the progress as this is going on.
this is exciting.
So you're getting to see this. This is brand new. Now, what we're going to do is over this entire next year, as you've been plugging into the Wise Guys and Ties channel, make sure you're subscribed. If you're just coming across this for the first time, make sure you subscribe, because we're going to take you along with us on this journey.
Right, and so hopefully all of these numbers change in our favor. But if for any reason things go south, we're going to show you that we also have multiple exit strategies. If the market moves away from us, this is a great area. There's an Air Force base. There's a community college here in town. So there's plenty of people here that could rent this space out. And so we might turn it into a rental for a number of years and then later flip it. So we have multiple options and strategies for how to handle this. But because we purchased this at such a great price, we also have the option to sell this at any different level, at any different stage in the build process, right? So with our general contractor, we're going to build this out in about 3 separate phases, and at each phase, we could just stop right there and say, okay, we'll sell at this point, right? And then the next phase, we'll stop right there and we can sell at that point.
You bring up a really good point, Joseph, on all these other creative exit strategies, because with uncertainty in the current markets, with what's currently taking place, who knows what a year from now looks like? Who knows what the market is going to look like? Mm-hmm. But in that case, the same way that, of course, we would not do 0% for a year, that's just ridiculous. That's where the knowledge comes into play. If we want to sell it, there's no loans on it, so we could become the bank, like you were saying, and we could create a seller finance note.
Right. Do you happen to also own a rental company?
We do.
So one of our exit strategies is we have another company as a safety net that could just turn around through a seller finance note, purchase this property. We put a tenant in here and pay off the main company and still cash flow for the rental company.
And we only really need about 3 months of rents coming in, and because there's business credit in place, we can look at refinancing it out.
Business credit. We didn't even talk about business credit. So, folks, it's important not to,
I just said refinance. I've been talking so much about how I hate refinancing.
But if you refinance within your own companies,
there's certain situations. Your fix and flip company needs to get cashed out so your rental company can move forward with the property. That fits into that little 7% I talk about. The standard homeowner who's buying a house. Yeah, that's a whole nother situation.
Here's the important thing we want to stress to all of you. We didn't just do this, off the fly, shooting from the hip. We're educated. We've learned a lot. We've come together with our strengths. I work a lot of the finance side. Mr. Fleming works a lot of the actual structuring of the deal and working with the contractors. But we're both educated. We both understand how seller finance notes works for the finance structure of the deal. But we also both understand how a fix and flip works and the structure of how that, the market analysis that's been done out here. All of these different things are components that we've learned. And I must stress that you get educated as well. That is so critical to what we're doing here, that these exit strategies. What if we don't get the sales price we want? Some people, they look at a range and then they think, oh, well, I want this. I want to sell for $300,000, right? I want, so they look at a lot of different things. Oh, I think I can save money here on the rehab, or I can save money on the closing costs. Our rehab, we might do $150,000 on this rehab, but if we're going to get, let's say, $330,000 for this house, that makes total sense to me. I'll put in the extra $40,000 and get my $40,000 plus $30 on top of that. And I say that because there's 2 houses with that are here that sold for $330,000. So, but again, we don't know what's going to happen with the economy, so we've got our exit strategies and we've got different points. This all comes from being educated. I didn't just figure this out. I'm somebody who went through 2 foreclosures and a bankruptcy. I didn't know anything about real estate when I started, other than how to get foreclosed on twice. So that's all I knew. So we both got educated using the Renatus education system, and we definitely want to encourage you to get educated. Use whatever system you have. You want to get educated like we have. If you see the success with what we're doing and the safety nets that we're putting in place for not only our money and actually when I say our money, our investors' money, because we have, between the 2 of us, no money into this deal, right? Which is great. If you want that to be you, if you want to be able to look at projects like this and take this down, and I mean, $28,000, maybe that's not enough for you. This deal could easily net $60,000 in profit once we make some adjustments along the way. But I don't want to tell you $60,000 and then we come in at 28. I'm going to tell you our 28 price, and if some things happen to work out and go our way, yeah, then we'll blow you out of the water with a $60,000 profit, which is much, much cooler, right? But around here, we have other members that we work with, other investors. They've easily made over $100,000 on one flip. It's all about where you're at, reading the market, running your numbers, because we don't buy properties, we don't buy houses, we buy the numbers. And for us, in our business structure and how we do things, the numbers work. And there's some added perks for us of coming down and visiting our families in this area, so this works out for us as well. So I want to say thank you so much for being here with us today on behalf of myself, Joseph Smith, and my business partner, Ray Fleming.
Good night.
Good night and God bless.
Bless.